สวัสดีค่ะวันนี้นะคะเราจะมารีวิวหม้อทอดไร้น้ำมันนะคะหรือว่า Air Fryer นะคะซึ่งพี่จอร์จนะคะก็ได้ออเดอร์มาให้เองแล้วก็ให้คุณแม่นะคะเอาไว้ใช้งานค่ะแล้วก็ยี่ห้อคาโซรินะคะก็เป็นยี่ห้อสำหรับเอก็ยังใหม่สำหรับยี่ห้อนี้เพราะตอนแรกเราดูกันว่าเราจะซื้อยี่ห้อฟิลิปนะคะแต่พี่จอร์จก็บอกบวกลบแล้วก็ไปอ่านรีวิวแล้วก็พบว่ายี่ห้อนี้ก็มีคนรีวิวแล้วก็การใช้งานน่าจะง่ายเดี๋ยวมาดูขั้นตอนวิธีการอธิบายของเขากันดีกว่าค่ะว่าทำไมเขาถึงตัดสินใจซื้อยี่ห้อนี้ So today what are you doing?
So we'll go over the operation, how to use, and how it works. So first off, an air fryer like this is a convection oven that has a fan to blow hot air around the food so that it cooks faster and it cooks evenly. So because it has...
I have one question for you. Why you decide buy the air fryer?
We do a lot of frying, and deep frying takes a lot of oil, and because of that, has a lot of fat. With an air fryer, you can get a similar effect to frying, but without so much oil. Instead of using a tremendous amount of oil, you can just have a very light coating of oil, just a very little amount of oil. And also, with the design that I'll show in a moment, a lot of the excess oil falls away from the food. So you're not eating as much oil, you're not eating as much fat. It's also a lot faster, right?
You mean it's healthy for us, right?
It is healthier. It is also faster, and it uses less oil because we talked about this previously. When you're done frying, what do you do with the oil? You shouldn't pour it down the sink. You should properly throw it away, but it has a habit of leaking and making a mess. So using a lot of oil for frying can be its own hazard.
Yeah, interesting.
So we'll talk about how this works, and then we'll talk about how you use it. So it's, like I said, a convection oven that then blows air around the food. So it needs a lot of air to work. So all along the top, there's a gap. There's a gap around this top plate. The plate stays in place, but this is actually where it pulls air in, right? What that means is
And don't open.
don't put anything on top of it because it needs to pull air in. So when it's running, it's going to be pulling air in from the top. Don't have anything on top of it. And also wherever you put it, you want to give it a few inches of space above it so it has plenty of room. So if you have a small kitchen or you have a shelf that's right above this, that's not going to be good because it's going to start not going to get enough air. You want to have at least, maybe, I think it has it says 5 inches. I'm going to look up how many centimeters that is. 13, at least 13 centimeters of space above it so that it can pull in enough air. Also, so it pulls the air in, it's moving it around the food, and then behind it, this is where the air comes out, right? So it's going to be blowing air out of the rear of the unit, which means you don't want to push it right up against the wall.
What the air then you think when you heat this one or when you cook?
I'm going to put this on a counter. I'm just going to make sure that I don't put it up against the wall. Again, it needs about 13 centimeters or 5 inches on top of air. And it's going to need about 13 centimeters or 5 inches of space behind it to blow the hot air out of the back. So just don't put it right underneath something. Don't put it right up against something. You want to have a little bit of space above it. You want to have a little bit of space behind it.
โอเค Okay, next step you can warn
So-
it people.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So, there's I don't know if you can see it, there's a little plastic cover over this button. That just keeps you from accidentally pushing the eject button. It slides up. To pull it out. And out. This is where your food will go. This is actually a basket inside of another basket. So if I slide this up and I push the eject,
Easy for keen.
this is where the food goes. This outer basket just collects the oil, the grease, the fat that comes out of here. So when you're done cooking, you take these apart and then you can wash them. You can wash them by hand. If you have a dishwasher, you could put these in the dishwasher. But you'll need to clean these. So again, you have to push this eject button to put it back together, and then we'll slide our little cover so we don't accidentally have it fall apart. So you would put your food in here, well, when you're cooking. For this particular air fryer, it's not plugged in so you can't see any of the buttons, but here we have a nice big picture that shows you the buttons when it's powered on. It has 11 presets for different types of food. Beef, chicken, fish, shrimp, bacon, frozen, in case you have frozen vegetables or some type of frozen food.
ก็จะมีไอคอนนะคะ I translate for in Thai ก็จะมีไอคอนต่างๆนะคะ ปกติจริงๆแล้วเราเสียบปลั๊กนะคะ ก็จะมีแสง มีไฟขึ้นมา แต่อันนี้จะโชว์ให้ดูก่อน มันจะเป็นตัวไอคอนโตบิ๊กมันจะใหญ่ขึ้นเนาะก็จะอธิบายนะก็จะมีแบบเป็นสเต็ก เป็นเนื้อปลา เป็นเบคอน หรือว่าจะเป็นชิคเก้นชิมกุ้งหรือว่าจะเป็นโฟรเซนเป็นแข็งๆหรือว่าจะเป็นพวกผัก เป็นเบเกอรี่ก็ได้นะคะ เราจะสตรีมหรือว่าเราจะอบอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ หรือว่าจะเป็นขนมปัง หรือว่าจะเป็นพวกเฟรนช์ฟรายเนี่ยก็จะง่ายในการที่จะเอามาทำอาหาร แล้วก็เมื่อกี้ที่พี่จอร์จบอกอะค่ะ ก็คือการทำงานเนี่ยอันเนี้ยก็คือค่อนข้างจะง่าย ตรงนี้ก็จะเป็นจะแยกชั้นส่วนในการทำงาน
You want to check it out?
Yeah.
You move that and push the button.
โอเค this one แล้วก็อันนี้ก็คือจะง่ายหน่อยตรงที่ว่าง่ายในการทำความสะอาดในการคลีนนะคะ แล้วก็น้ำมันก็จะมาอยู่ตรงนี้โอเค next step you can explain this icon
By the way, I don't know if you mentioned this, but this is fried vegetables. These are root vegetables.
I'm not sure I need the tip
That's just the difference. These are vegetables like
yeah
broccoli, asparagus, whatever comes on top. This is root vegetables like radishes, carrots, anything that's a root vegetable. There's also this button that we didn't talk about. We skipped over it. It's the preheat button, right? So if you are frying things in here, you usually want to preheat it before you put the food in, right? So you hit preheat and it does a little warm up, and then it'll beep saying that it's ready. Then you put the food inside and choose what preset you want. Now, it's not magic. If you just hit chicken and go, the preset does not know how much chicken you put in there, right? So you can customize it. You can push the chicken and it's going to automatically set the temperature and the time, but that's kind of a guess, right? You may need to adjust the time or adjust the temperature, hotter, colder, longer, shorter, depending on how much chicken you have in there, right? Maybe you're doing a little bit of chicken, so maybe you need to lower the time or something, or it's very thin cut chicken, so you need less temperature, or maybe you've got just a whole lot of stuff in there, so you want more time or a little more temperature. So, you know, just hitting the preset button and go may not be what you want. You may want to hit it and then adjust the temperature of the time. Or maybe you cook it, it's fine, you pull it out and you're like, oh, it's not quite ready yet. so then you can add more time.
But I read this one the guide and tip easy for understand if the people maybe people cannot understand the English language, right? But you can see. And this one for the icons.
Yeah, this is just a reference guide of hitting the buttons, and it's talking about, for example, when you push the fish button, it has different temperatures and times for salmon versus tilapia, right? And it's saying 6 ounces worth, which is what it's assuming that you have. So if you have more than 6 ounces, maybe you want more time.
Okay.
If you have less than 6 ounces, maybe you have less time. Same thing like if you hit the shrimp button, do you have jumbo shrimp, the really big shrimp, or do you have small shrimp? Right, so it's changing the amount of time based on the size of the shrimp. For steak, it's changing the amount of time based on how much red you want inside. If you don't want much red, you just do more time. Right? For chicken, there's different guides here. Are you cooking chicken legs? Are you cooking chicken wings? Are you doing the thighs? So it's got different.
Different time, different. The same.
It looks the same here, but
Yeah.
I think we could just assume that if you have a big basket full, maybe more time. If you have a small basket, maybe less time.
And the dessert.
And
Okay.
desserts, you can again, because this is basically a convection oven with a fan, you can use it as an oven. You can bake. You can bake. I don't know if the glare is going to be too much. You can bake cupcakes. You can bake cake. You can bake souffle. You can bake bread, banana bread, garlic bread.
Wow.
So you can use it to make cookies theoretically.
Ooh, honey, look delicious. You can show this one for people.
Yeah. So this air fryer comes with a recipe book, giving you ideas of how to cook different meals. And this is nice too because it also gives you an idea of how long and what temperature to cook different types of food. Like here's cheeseburger sliders, which gives you an idea if you wanted to cook burgers, you know, the kind of temperatures that you would use and the time that you would use. Tortilla chips, there's a lot of recipes in this book, but also on the internet, people post more recipes on the internet for using these things.
Yeah, look like my country. In Thailand, they have the community about the air fryer. They share a lot of the food and they post a lot of the picture and how to choose and how to choose the ingredients and how to choose the temperature.
So I'll see if the lighting is good. As you can see inside, it's just a convection oven, and behind the heating coil is a fan to just blow air, to blow really hot air around the food. So it's a very simple device, and you just have a bunch of buttons that will quickly put in the correct temperature and probably the correct time. Again, it doesn't know if you're putting a lot of food in the basket or a little food. So you push the preset and maybe you want to change how much time based on how much you put in the basket.
Honey, I want to know, do you have this band what the size? XL or XXL?
Oh yeah, so I think so. I think there are different sizes of air fryers. This is a 5.8 quart air fryer.
This one's the big or not big?
This is
Medium.
considered, I'd say this is probably considered a medium size air fryer. Smaller ones will be 3 or 4 quart. This one's 5.8, almost 6 quarts. And then the really large ones can be, you know, up to like 10 quarts. So this would be good for feeding 3 people, or maybe 4 people, but beyond that you'd probably want a larger air fryer. I also wanted to mention real quick, so when you are frying something, throw some french fries in there or something, right? The food is sitting here. If there's a lot of food, maybe it's on top, right? There's just a pile of fries, there's a pile of vegetables, a pile of shrimp or whatever, and you're cooking it. Well, anywhere that the food is resting on top of other food, it doesn't get to cook where it's touching, right? It gets cooked on the top and the bottom, but not in the middle. So this will make a sound telling you, it'll make a sound telling you you should shake the food a bit. And when that happens, you just pull it out and you just sort of shake the food, separating it, making sure that it gets air gets on all the sides. Right?
Some band they have the middle or what in the side, right?
Oh, like a window?
Yeah, window.
I haven't seen that. That would seem dangerous, but I haven't seen an air fryer that has a window.
I mean, look like the microwave or the bake.
Yeah, I've seen some
Another band.
So an air fryer, I haven't seen an air fryer with a window, but again, an air fryer is just a convection oven with a fan. So there are some convection ovens that have a fan that they're not sold as an air fryer, but they pretty much do the same thing as an air fryer, and those will have a glass door, right? So instead of pulling the entire basket out, it'll have like a glass door, and the glass door just opens, right? And so you can see through that. And I was looking at getting one of those because usually those are much bigger. They'll be shorter and wider, which can be good for some types of food. But the fan isn't great. It doesn't blow a lot of air, so it's not so good at the frying capability. It gets a similar effect, but it's not as strong. The food sometimes doesn't come out crispy, right? So, maybe if you were using one of those to make muffins, it would be great, really good. But if you were using it to make something fried, or like crispy tofu, maybe the tofu doesn't come out as crispy on those, as crispy as this one. So this one focuses more on frying, less on baking. Those other convection ovens focus more on baking, less on frying. They can all do the same thing, they're just doing a little bit better at baking or frying. Since we do a lot of frying, I went this direction to get something that focuses on frying.
Okay. Today you plan what kind of food you want to cook by the air fryer?
I don't know. We'll have to look at what we have in the kitchen. But the instructions do say when you first get this and unpack it, to do a test run where we will plug it in and we do a preheat. And then we'll hit the steak button. Once it's done with the preheat, we hit the steak button. And we're just letting it make sure that the fan's working, make sure that the heating element is working, and make sure that everything's fine before we ever put any food in it. So we're going to do a test run later where nothing is inside it, but it still just runs and blows air and make sure that everything's working.
Okay, say thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.